right, star, stage, and screen. Rachel Nichols, we love having her on the show. We haven't had you for a couple of months.
Yeah.
What a pleasure to have you. You were at the Lakers Clippers last night, which I said with about 8 minutes left, I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed.
Who needs it?
Get a good night's sleep.
Right.
And you told me during the break is Laker fans.
Oh.
At the end of the third.
Yes. I mean, yes. They were down by 20.
And they're leaving the arena.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
shades of the Miami Heat fans from years back.
That's right. It is. I've said this. I always appreciated this. Like, I think there's certain comps, and I understand the LeBron, Michael stuff, but it is weird. It has a Sandy Koufax, like Justin Verlander feel. Like, Verlander's been great it's a De Niro, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Both great. One won an Oscar in 74 and may get another one here in 2024. LeBron's doing stuff, and I've said this, he's not the best consistent player in the league. But there are nights like last night, he's easily the best player on the floor of two really good teams. Did it feel like that?
100%. I mean, LeBron is a transcendent player, and that was a transcendent performance last night. He has never done anything like that before. That's crazy. When LeBron, who's in year 21, gets to something he's never even done before, you know it is a very big deal. So that is just phenomenal what he did last night. Obviously, offensively, hitting all those threes was terrific. But the fact that he played great defense, he bothered Kawhi on that last shot. And when they started doubling him and just kind of made it impossible for him to get to the basket, he had all the right passes to all the right teammates who he had given a ton of confidence to. So, I've been saying it's like the Toby Keith line. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was, right? I mean, that's what LeBron is right now. He cannot be the LeBron of his MVP seasons in Miami every single night for 82 games plus 3 months of the playoffs. But man, when he puts it out there, nobody can match in the league what he does on the nights that he is as hot as he is.
Because they have players on the roster, the Clippers, that have had Kawhi's had some great postseasons, but Paul George, I think to some degree unfairly, has been criticized for his playoff performances. I think he's better than people think.
Yep.
James Harden has run out of gas. Westbrook's been very hot and cold. Nobody necessarily, myself included, trusts the Clippers in the postseason. Is last night an indictment? Is there anything you watch and think, man, that felt like a playoff game at the end and they didn't have it?
I don't think so. I'm not spinning out a much larger judgment. Look, nobody should be up 21 points in the fourth quarter and lose, no matter who you have out on the floor. But you do have to remember, 2 of their 5 starters were out. Right? And Paul George in particular, he is a backbone of that team. He is a plus player in every game, not even by a little bit. And 21 points is not what it used to be. In the last few years alone, the Clippers themselves have been down more than 30 points and come back to win games. And other teams around the league have done it too. So you can't look at this and be like, man, they can't handle anything anymore.
Right.
But I do worry about the Clippers handling length.
Yeah.
There are some other big teams in the Western Conference, Minnesota, Denver, and the Lakers with AD and LeBron. And I just think that this would have been a good win for them, especially without Zoo. But it didn't happen. They didn't have Zubac. I mean, we'll have to see what happens. But they do have to figure out that how to play length problem before they get to the playoffs.
One of the things I've always liked players like Drew Holiday because we talk about stars and mobility in the NBA a lot. But the truth is LeBron's been mobile and successful. KD's moved around, probably should have never left the Warriors. Yeah. We also talk about stars a lot.
Or should have gone to the Knicks. I'm just going to keep banging that drum.
But there's also players in this league that are wildly valuable, and they don't get discussed a lot. So really one key player changed the Bucks and Celtics, Drew Holiday.
Yep.
Milwaukee is not close to the same team, and Boston looks like, significantly better than the rest. I think the Celtics are much better than the rest of the East than even Denver is against the West. I think there are teams that could give Denver. Yeah. I don't think anybody plays with Boston. The Milwaukee situation, they had a coach with a winning record. They got rid of him.
Yeah.
Like the Doc thing. I know ESPN was unhappy. He just jettisoned them. What do you make of Milwaukee and Boston now? Is it a Drew Holiday thing? Should we be worried in Milwaukee? I mean, Giannis, Rachel, he's gotten a little westernized. He was such a nice kid. Now he talks about, get me this, fire this. If Milwaukee is a one and done, is Giannis there?
I mean, look, you don't win anything in professional sports by being nice. So I have no problem with Giannis knowing what he wants, asking for what he wants. That is the modern NBA. And look, I personally would not have fired Adrian Griffin with that record.
Yeah.
But we all know that playoff wins are different than regular season wins. And if they felt within that organization, if in the locker room among the players, they felt this guy is not a playoff coach and we are trying for the finals, we are not trying to have a nice showing in the second round, that is, I assume, why they felt they needed to make a change. And we've seen so many teams, right, who are good regular season teams, and then they just cannot handle a playoff environment. I am curious to see if the Bucks turn into sort of the opposite. They have Damian Lillard. Yeah. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have other good players. And in Doc Rivers, obviously, everyone has talked about his record in 7-game series, et cetera, but he is a championship coach who has won a title. He's won big games in a lot of really hardcore playoff situations. And I'm curious to see if when the rosters are, the bench is shortened and all the other stuff, whether that team performs better in the postseason than we have seen so far. But I will say I agree with you on the Celtics. No matter how much better the Milwaukee Bucks get, the Celtics are so clearly the class of not just the conference, but
you can watch them on any given night. They go to Philadelphia now. Obviously, Embiid's not there, but when you watch them on a consistent basis against Eastern teams,
they just destroy
home or a road
everyone. So with Boston, to me, the question isn't really are they coming out of the East? Anything can happen. And the people in Milwaukee, in Miami right now, I hear screaming at their televisions. But wait, there's us. Never forget us. We've beaten Boston a couple times when it counts in the playoffs. But I really think the question for them is, can they beat a Denver? Let's say if that's who they match up with in the finals, and those are the most likely teams to get there. Yeah. And I don't know. I think for the Celtics, it's not championship or bust because obviously they're a young team. If they don't win this year, they're going to be able to come back next year. I do think for the psyche of that Boston team,
absolutely,
right? They lost to the Warriors in a finals in a series that, frankly,
home game they had control of the series and got they got dogged at home.
Yep. And then even that series against the Heat last year. And again, no disrespect to Miami because that team we've seen just comes alive in the postseason. But Boston should have won that series. Yeah. And the fact that they didn't. So if they do make it to the finals again this year, I think for their sort of mental, who are we? What can we be? Are we a championship group? They kind of need to win this year. Otherwise, I wonder if they'll do a little tinkering over the summer.
Yeah, that's what I feel as well. So New York tonight plays Golden State. Warriors are a fascinating team. Usually after a dynasty, Michael Jordan's team, the Heatles, you kind of bottom out for a few years. Yeah. They have kind of pivoted. They hit on a draft pick, kind of the next Clay. Kuminga's pop, Chris Paul back. They're actually really, Draymond has been great. Wiggins, who was bad early, now has found his role and his groove. So I like Golden State tonight in that game. As somebody that is a Knicks fan, I thought they would. Now, they've had injuries to Julius Randle, but I do feel it's pretty obvious when you watch them and you see a Denver or even a Lakers or a Golden State or you see a Boston, I feel like they're missing a piece, an offensive piece. Were you surprised they didn't make a move at the deadline?
I wasn't, only in that there wasn't something out there that felt like to me, oh my God, we have to have this. I think the OG Anunoby move, which was a week and a half before the deadline or 2 weeks before the deadline, whatever it was their deadline move. Yeah. I think that they have more to do, though. I agree with you. They have a missing piece to be a championship level team. Fortunately, they have the assets to do that. Yeah. So whether it's this summer, whether it's before next year's trade deadline, I expect them to do something big, and I expect it to make a big impact.
So finally, I think Victor Wembanyama is fascinating.
Man,
I'm old school.
He's so fun.
Yeah, there's a little Sam Bowie. It's these guys now, these European players come down the wing at 7'3", put it on the deck. I mean, it's just a whole different ballgame. You can't. Bottom line is you can't hand check, so everybody gets to the basket, and there's no bigs at the rim because they're all out in the perimeter shooting. When you covered him, when you've been at games, what's the atmosphere like with him?
Yeah, I saw him just a couple weeks ago at a game, and he is just, people's jaw drop. On TV, he looks great, but I promise you, in person, it is an entirely different experience. It looks like he can do anything he wants. Yeah. He was playing against the Lakers. He made Anthony Davis look small. LeBron said, I looked over, and Anthony's looking like, a regular-sized person over there. If he played on a better team, I think he would be a strong candidate for Defensive Player of the Year right now as a rookie, and he still has more progress to go. I said, as he entered the league, I said, to me, if he is able to stay healthy, he already has displayed he has the drive. If he is able to maintain that, he could be a top 10 player of all time. And that is not something you say about guys who haven't played a bounce yet in the NBA. But to me, it seemed obvious. And I got to say, nothing has changed my mind in the last 3 or 4 months.
Holmgren, similar body type. We worry about Wemby, but more Chet Holmgren. Will they be pushed around? I heard a lot of scouts say pushed around. But you watch the offensive game of Chet and Wemby, and you're like, these kids, I mean, these guys, you're talking 7-footers that can put it on the deck and beat you off the dribble. It's insane.
And remember what Giannis looked like as a rookie, right? Either the before and after pictures.
Yes.
I mean, he looks like a totally different body and a totally different person. Get Victor Wembanyama in an NBA strength and conditioning program. He's already started to put on some muscle. I expect that to continue.
Rachel Nichols. All right. Great seeing you. She got a good one last night as the Lakers came roaring back from a 21-point deficit. I was almost turning it off. People were leaving, and LeBron did a LeBron. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.